Another edition of NASCAR DFS preview with the Sports Chief. So we're heading into week 2 of the NASCAR season. This is an exciting time for me because I feel like this is when, the real racing starts. Daytona, of course, was quite eventful, especially with the bad wreck at the end there with Ryan Newman. Glad he's okay. That just speaks volumes for the safety that NASCAR brings week in and week out. Those guys are going insanely fast, and the fact that they can survive crashes like that is quite amazing. So, but we are heading into Las Vegas Motor Speedway at the Pennzoil 400 presented by Jiffy Lube. So for those of you who do not know, Las Vegas is a 1.5-mile track. It's a little different in the fact that it's kind of a loose driving track, so to speak. A lot of your guys can use the top lane and the bottom lane there. I want to say it's more of an oval shape than a lot of the other tracks. Probably closer to like Chicagoland is a good comparison as far as the other tracks on the schedule. It's a little different than like Charlotte, Texas, Atlanta, those kind of tracks. But it's a pretty fast track nonetheless. Of course, we are with the 550 aero package. The 550 horsepower aero package this week, and last year we did pretty well with our lineup here at the Sports Chief, so we're looking forward to giving you more tips here. So qualifying was rained out, so that's one thing to consider. It's a little tough when the rainouts happen because a lot of your better drivers, of course, are starting up towards the front, so it's just a little more difficult to pick certain drivers, and a lot of those guys starting towards the back, they may be back there for good reason. Xfinity Series race actually is going to race Sunday night. Saturday they couldn't get it in, and yeah, their qualifying was rained out as well. So it's they're getting a good rain over there in Vegas. So, but nonetheless, let's just hit it, and let's see what we can do here with our picks. So let's just look at what DraftKings has offered us here. Kyle Busch is the favorite to win this race. He's at 4.5 to 1, and so is Harvick. So that's your top two choices at $12K. Kyle's 12.4. Kevin Harvick's 12,000. Martin Truex Jr. starting in second at 11.6. Keselowski in eighth at 11.1. Joey Logano in fifth at 10.7, and Denny Hamlin starting in fourth at 10.2. One thing to think about while making your lineup, know that Kyle Busch, Denny Hamlin, trying to think here, I think like Christopher Bell, they're going to the back of the field for failing inspection. I know Chase Elliott, I'm pretty sure he's got to go to the back too. Could be wrong about that, though. I know he failed. I think if you fail 3 times, they send you to the back. So he may have not failed that third time, but I know he's got a little. I think they had to get rid of a crew member or something. So with NASCAR's rules about inspection. So those are your 10K guys who they've offered with us. I have to say I broke out my calculator and we're ready to rock and roll as far as the finishes here. Looking at past races. I definitely look at practice speeds, so that's one factor to consider while making this. With Kyle Busch starting in first and he's being moved to the back, he's kind of X'd out of my my consideration. Kevin Harvick is pretty quick. He was pretty quick in final practice. But one driver that I'm pretty intrigued about picking is Brad Keselowski. So he is starting in 8th position. And I'm actually going to pick Brad. I'm going to go ahead and pick him. So the reason why I'm going with Brad, I went with him last year too. But Brad has an average finish at Vegas of 11.6, which is pretty solid. His last 9 finishes, he has an average finish of 3.2. Yes, 3.2. So Brad's kind of got this track down pat. He's pretty good here. Starting in 8th and being that Busch and Hamlin are going to the back, he's actually starting in 6th. So you're getting like 2 spots already, and he was pretty fast in practice. He wasn't like one of the fastest Fords. A lot of Fords were fast, but it's hard to argue with stats like that. And I really wanted to go Joey Logano because I know Joey is actually really good here too. His average finish is 8.5. Penske guys and Blaney, he's really high up there as well. I think he's like 10 or something like that average finish. So he's done really well at this track as well and performed really well. So going with Brad Keselowski at 11-1. And being that that's my top tier choice, looking at these guys, I'm probably going to scroll down here to see what options we have towards the bottom. So looking at this here, Timmy Hill, Quinn Houff, Joey Gase, Brennan Poole, Reed Sorensen, Yaley, and Smithley. Nah, probably won't go any of those guys, especially at a track like this. Horsepower is very key, and those top teams are like seconds ahead of these guys. So Corey LaJoie, I'm ruling him out as well. But John Hunter Nemechek was interesting. So John Hunter in second practice really lit it up. He got a second place finish here in the Xfinity Series. His dad was actually really good in the Xfinity Series at this track too. I don't know what it is about Vegas, but I know like Joe was really good at Kansas, if I remember right. I guess that's kind of similar. I would say Chicagoland's a little more similar, but John Hunter was like top 10 on top speed, and then he was keeping his distance like in the 10, 15, 20 lap runs. He was staying pretty consistent. He was a little slower than the other guys, of course, but being in 29th position, I feel like he's probably faster than Preece. Dillon was pretty quick. He's faster than McDowell, faster than Bubba. So I'm going with John Hunter Nemechek. He's my guy. He raced about 2 or 3 races last year. I think it's 3 with the team that he's with now, Front Row Motorsports. And he qualified 29th at Fort Worth, Texas. Racing Reference is kind of where I look at these stats, by the way. But qualified 29th, and he actually finished 21st. And I think you might be looking at something similar. And that's a really good output. That's 8 positions passed. He could get a top 20 or right there about somewhere in that range. Speed-wise, he looked really good. So I'm going with John Hunter, and that'll help you save with salary. So I'm going to scroll back up here to the top. Really have to cut off probably the 10K guys. I don't think you can really afford them at this point and make a solid lineup, or at least I'm not going to look at that. So 3 drivers that were really quick in practice: Kurt Busch, Bowman, and Byron. So Kurt pretty much stayed around the 30.6s, 30.5s on big long runs. Bowman was in the 30.5s. Bowman was actually top 5. He was the top name like in every single practice, the first and second practice. So Bowman's starting in 12th. I really like him this week, and I'm going to go with him. Alex Bowman in 12th. Think he'd get a top 5. He's that fast. Hendrick brought a really good piece, and Jimmy Johnson was fastest in second practice. So I really like what Hendrick brought to the table this week. So I'm going with Alex there, and I'm going to scroll on down here, and I'm going to pick another guy that I've found interesting here. So Ross Chastain is starting in 15th. He's driving for Ryan Newman and was really fast. Showed speeds in the top 5 in long runs and also top speed. 15th, though, is a pretty high starting spot for him. I think if he was starting around 18th or 19th, I'd probably pull the trigger. But 15th, realistically, is probably where you should temper your expectations for. It would be amazing to see Ross Chastain get a top 10. That would be awesome for Roush and the whole team there. But I don't know. I know he won an Xfinity race here last year. And he's pretty good at this track, but I'm not going to go with Ross. I'm actually going to go with Tyler Reddick at 6'5". So Tyler Reddick in final practice, 25 lap runs. He was like a tenth or 2 off of what Larson and Kurt Busch were. Those are the 2 names that I'm thinking of in my head right now. But Reddick has actually won a truck race and Xfinity race at this track. It's kind of got that dirt feel to it. where you kind of slide around a little bit. And him being 25th, I feel it's pretty likely for him to get a top 20. I think Tyler Reddick is a superstar in the making, and I really like him in that 8 car. It's not the best car, but I think he'll definitely get the best out of it. And I see Reddick getting at least a top 20 this week. Track's going to be fresh, though, with all this rain, so it's going to be interesting to see. But I think that he'll run really well. He showed that the car has long run speed, and that helps us a ton in salary. So, going to do the same kind of thing, go up to Larson, or 10K down, so Larson's your first guy there. And this is where I had a really long debate. So, I've got $9,100 to spend. I could go like Kurt Busch and pick Ryan Blaney. Ryan Blaney's got a really good average finish here. His speed was pretty consistent. It wasn't really that fast, though, so that was kind of weird to see. One driver that's sticking in my head right now is William Byron. He's starting in 11th. He was hanging around the top 10 in speeds. His long run speeds were really good as well. And he's got a guy that's on his pit box named Chad Knaus who, did pretty well for Jimmy Johnson. Jimmy has a really good average finish here, but in the last couple of years, he's not finished very well at this track. And William Byron, I really like him this week. In 11th, top 10 very likely. Could possibly contend for the win. I think it's just a matter of time. And that helps us out at 9-8. So we got Kyle Larson there. And Larson is probably my pick to win this race. Looked really fast. He was really good here last year. He's I don't know. I'm just a believer in Kyle Larson and his talent and the dirt part of it. Like I said with Reddick, I think this track just fits his driving style really well. So I'm going to go with Kyle Larson. One thing to consider here too, Eric Almirola was really fast. If you went Almirola, you could possibly go Hamlin and Larson. I do like Byron better than Almirola. Ricky Stenhouse is probably going to be a very popular choice in 26th. I just didn't see the speed out of Ricky. And I think that's probably a top 25 car. Chris Buescher was one that I really wanted to roll with. And if you did that, you get Truex. I think I would have pulled the trigger on Buescher if I was able to get Harvick. Because I think Buescher can get in the top 20. De Benedetto is quick on short run, not so much long run. Bell, it's probably about where he should be. Custer. And this is the hard thing about rain delays. They're kind of where they should be. So let me get I'll just go ahead and clear it out here. So my picks for Las Vegas, the Pennzoil 400, would be Brad Keselowski, Kyle Larson, Alex Bowman, William Byron, scrolling down here, Tyler Reddick, and John Hunter Nemechek. So there you have it. Keselowski, Larson, Bowman, Byron, Reddick, and Nemechek. So there you have it. That's what we're rolling out here with the Sports Chief. Hopefully this helped you making your lineup. It's always important to look at stats like practice, past history. We don't have a lot of history with this new aero package, and that's one thing that is a little difficult. You do have last year's 2 races. Really, that first race of the year from last year is the best one to look at rather than the other one because the temperatures are just different. But yeah, hopefully this helped you out. If you like what we provide here at this channel, click the subscribe button, comment, like, dislike if you don't like it. Go check out our website at www.thesportschief.com, and we're also on Twitter at thesportschief and on Instagram. So I hope everybody has a good race weekend, and maybe the rain will hold off in Vegas, and maybe we'll actually get this race in. So I hope you have a good one, and good luck.